Hello everyone, my name is Mariana Peixoto. Today I present the paper Privacy Requirement Specification in Agile Software Development with Privacy Criteria Method. As I said, my name is Mariana Peixoto. I'm a PhD student at Federal University of Pernambuco since 2016. My supervisor there is Carla Silva, and I had the opportunity to do a 6-month sandwich PhD at BTH. My supervisor there was Professor Tony Gorshek. In this presentation, I will focus on the main contribution of my PhD research, the Privacy Criteria Method, PCM. The outline of presentation. First, I will show the motivation. After that, the Privacy Criteria Method and PCM tool. And I will show examples with PCM. And finally, the PhD progress. Hackers exploit system problems, and a lot of data records have been lost or stolen over the years. Facing to this new reality, we need to deal with problems of security, of safety, and about privacy. Sometimes alone, sometimes a security problem turns into a privacy problem. For example, hackers block the hospital system files with a payment condition. If the money is not paid, they can sell or share patient data. In Hancock Hospital case, for example, hackers block the system files and they pay more than $50,000. Here, we can see a security problem turn into a privacy problem. However, the privacy problem goes beyond, because every day our data are collected, analyzed, and transmitted to others, and we left this. But such exposure in a bad way is problematic because some organizations have bad intentions. It means that sometimes we don't have a security problem, however, we have a privacy problem. In this slide, we have an interesting example. The Face app, an app that people can see themselves older or younger. A few months ago, this app was being used a lot. But many news started to emerge warning about the Face app due to their privacy policy because it's a Russian application and they don't have a privacy law like GDPR in Europe. And they can do whatever they want with people's data. Here we can see a privacy problem that didn't start because of a security issue. But what's privacy? Privacy is an old concept. Actually, privacy is a human right. In the beginning, with US guise of laws, privacy was the right to be let alone. Or privacy was when, how, and to what extent information about them is communicated to others. Security is about prevention of harm caused by the action of attackers. It means that privacy can happen by people from inside the system and security from people outside the system. On the other hand, we see the increasing adoption of Agile Software Development, ASD, because of its advantages. For example, short iterations and active stakeholders, because the flexibility to deal with requirement changes and minimal documentation. However, in Agile, requirement engineering is a recent topic and it's not completely explored, and non-functional requirements in FR, the case of privacy, are usually neglected or receive a weak treatment. People just think about NFR in the end of software development like a plus. Because of that, we create PCM to help software developers who use agile methods in considering privacy from the beginning of the software development. We create PCM based on a privacy capabilities framework in light of common practice of the industry, that is textual documentation. We also develop a tool to help PCM specification. We should keep in mind that PCM is a complementary method of the common one used in the company, for example, user store or BPMN. We start the process with the specification of the requirement. If the requirement involves collect, use, retention, disclosure, or personal information, if it does it, we should start the specification with PCM. If it doesn't, we finished. We have an user story as a common method of the company with this description. As a user role, I want a goal so that I can get a benefit. Let's try to personalize a recommendation system. With this description, as the product owner, I want the system to be able to present personalized recommendations for consumption or give discounts. But how to promote a personalized recommendation system without personal data? Let's rephrase it to: I want to record individual customers' habits. Now we are thinking about personal data, personal information. But what about the privacy? About the privacy of this personal information? We need to think it in more details. We can do it with PCM. This is the output of the PCM specification and also the output of the specification with PCM2. Let me explain in more detail. We start PCM specification with a basic description with ID, PC01, with a privacy requirement associated, user store 01, and the description. Here we have record customers' habits. After that, we should consider the specification of lawful base according to GDPR. Here we have consent, but we also have contract, legal obligation, vital interest, public task, legitimate interest. Here we choose consent. After that, we start the steps of PCM. First step is the specification of the actors. That can be the owner of personal information, the processor, person or system that will be in touch with some personal information, and third party, person who needs permission to access this personal information. Here we have user and the system. After that, we should consider the specification of step 2, the relationship of the actors. Here we have the trust relationship about the user and the system. After that, you should consider the specification of personal information that can be private, public, or semi-public. Public, everyone can see. Semi-public, just the processor and the owner of the information can see. And the third party needs permission to see this information. After that, you should consider the specification of step 4, the context, in this case, to present personalized recommendations. After that, the retention time, how long? Here we have for 2 years. After that, you should consider the specification step 5, the privacy constraint, according to our user preference, or according to our compliance with a law. Here we have personal data may not be collected without request, and the request must be performed every time data is collected. After that, you should consider the specification step 6, the risk scenario that involves a vulnerability, that is a system weakness. In this case, external attackers access the data, exploited by a threat, an incident, in this case identification of the user, cause harm, a result of a privacy violation. In this case, we have embarrassment to the user. After that, you should consider the specification of privacy mechanism, the solution. That here we have pseudonymity to mitigate the identification of the actor, consent because the constraint. Summarizing, we have the specification of the basic description, specification of the actors, the relationship of these actors, specification of personal information, private, public, or semi-public, specification of text, context, specification of constraint according to a user preference, according to a law, specification of the risk scenario that involves vulnerability, harm, and threat, and specification of privacy mechanism to mitigate this privacy risk scenario or to meet the constraint. Here we have the first page of PCM tool. We have what's this documentation, the catalog, a case study with an example, and a privacy policy. We should create an account to use the PCM tool. Let's write one example about a healthcare system. In this system, in this scenario, there is Alice who needs to visit the doctor because she feels pain. So, she needs to have a system account to share information with different doctors. We should start with the requirement specification. We start with the common specification of the company. Here, the user store. I want to have a registration so that I can access the system. And we complete here with some acceptance criteria. After that, we should ask if this requirement involves collect, use, retention, or disclosure of personal information. And yes, the answer is yes, because we have username, email, and password. Because the answer is yes, we should start the specification with PCM. We start here. I brought a mockup to better illustrate the requirement, to see better. So that you should start the specification of the PCM, basic description, ID, privacy requirement associated, and the description, healthcare user registration. After that, we should start the steps of PCM, the specification of the actors. Here we have the owner, a healthcare user, and the processor, the system. The trust relationship is about the healthcare user and the system. After that, you should consider the specification of personal information. Here we have private information, password, and semi-public information, email and username. The context is for the above of information is for system registration. And how long? As long as the user has a system account. After that, you should consider the constraint. Here just have privacy compliance, or the user may not be able to view data marked as private. You should consider the specification of step 6, privacy risk scenario. Here you have the vulnerability, other users can access the user data, explored by a threat, exposure of user registration, cause harm, unrestricted access to all user information. Finally, the privacy mechanism, the solution, access control to mitigate the risk scenario, and confidentiality to meet the constraint. It's important to remember that to choose the privacy mechanism, we can use the catalog of privacy concepts. Now the progress of the PhD. The privacy criteria method and its tool are in development. PCM evaluation. We are evaluating PCM through 3 different ways. First, we did a controlled experiment with 34 master students. We analyzed the quality and quantity of PCM specification in comparison to user store and acceptance criteria specification. Results have shown that PCM produces good quality specification, and using PCM helps to participants to focus more on privacy requirement specification. We also evaluate showing one illustrative scenario of a healthcare system, and we are evaluating through a case study with Agile experts. The time span of this case study is 3 hours more or less, and we have already visited 4 companies. Please contact me if you have any question. Thank you.